Hello, friends, followers, members of our jihad. Welcome to the Sunday Cinematic Service, an irreverent, hopefully funny, definitely occasionally harrowing guide to the world of cinematic-based entertainment. I'm your host, Marcus, with co-host...
Heath.
Hello, Heath. Every Sunday in the main show, which is this one, we'll take a look at a religious-themed film. So after last week, where we covered Life of Brian, the classic Monty Python film, we go to another British comedy, one that proves that, unlike the rumours, we're not controlled by the so-called Islamic media empire, and we can actually criticise other religions. Four Lions, the tale of five mainly incompetent young Muslim men who have been drawn into extremism as they attempt to blow themselves up, plans that are largely derailed due to their own incompetence in fighting and inability to form any kind of plan. Although it's bolder than Life of Brian in some ways, it was released in 2010, a political climate only 5 years out of an actual bombing in London which claimed several lives. And it takes a religion that I think it's fair to say is less widely known about in Britain than Christianity. You'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Even though it's bolder in those ways, the film is more silly than Life of Brian. It doesn't take a sort of ideological look at Islam. It is mainly sort of a self-contained story of sort of five bumbling idiots. Before the film was released, because of its writer-director, Chris Morris, who is widely known for his TV and radio stuff, most famously The Day Today, which released a special episode lampooning the media's treatment of paedophiles, and was so controversial Chris Morris had to go into hiding, and it received tens of thousands of complaints, but also known for The Day Today, On the Hour, Jam, less so with Jam, but mainly his work sort of satirises the media and sort of big institutions, which makes this film, with its sort of silly, irreverent tone, kind of an outlier in his work. It's his debut film as well, and also has co-writers as well, so possibly not the sort of vision that people are expecting going into the film. And when it was released, instead of sort of the rampant controversy of his other work and what people are expecting, kind of met with a sort of polite response. Universal plays for the actors, but the film itself, it's got like a 68% on Metacritic, 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's kind of one of the films that got acclaimed, but not sort of seen as being particularly great. I think its reputation's improved somewhat over time. It's a bit of a cult film. But yeah, we watched it. I've seen it 3 times before. Your first time, correct, Heath?
Yeah.
So what did you think of 2010's Four Lions?
It's fucking weird.
It's fucking weird.
No, it's such a weird film. So you've got this really serious subject matter about these suicide bombers.
Yeah.
And everyone in the group is an incompetent boob.
To varying degrees, yeah.
Yeah, even Omar is shown to be, he's supposed to be the most competent one out of the lot of them.
Yeah.
And he ends up blowing up the
boots.
No, he ends up blowing up the terrorists in Pakistan.
Oh, yeah, sorry, early. I think... I actually accidentally spoiled the ending, but if you've not seen the film, why the hell are you listening to this? I would recommend it. Go see Four Lions. But yeah, continue. You kind of get to like these people, yeah,
and sort of a part of you wants them to succeed in what they're doing. It's very sort of a conflicting type of feeling. This is what I got when I watched it, because I was like, okay, they're doing an objectively awful thing, but I like these characters, and I kind of want them to succeed.
Well, I think that's what's so good about the film. So the film's sort of first hour follows a kind of these are incompetent buffoons, but they're quite likeable. And then it takes a real big shift in the sort of last third. Everything after the marathon, I think, is kind of... Even though it has some of the best jokes, I think is just harrowing to watch.
Oh yeah, it's very difficult. It gets really difficult at the end there.
Yeah. It's as much a sort of tragic drama in the end as it is a comment, because I think that they are genuinely quite likable characters. Like even Omar, who I think is kind of, even though I think, as you say, he is a bumbling buffoon to some degree.
Yeah,
I think he's really well played by Riz Ahmed, soon to be seen in Venom.
all right, okay, good.
So keeping up the good work of challenging British cinema.
Yeah,
but I think the way he plays it's really interesting, because he, to me, comes across quite cold at certain points, and like there's a bit near the end of the film, the bit where he's telling Waz to swap his brain with his heart.
Yeah,
that's depressing to watch.
Oh yeah, that's awful. Like I watching that and just going, why are you doing this to your friend? Why he obviously doesn't want to go through with this.
Yeah.
He comes around in the end, but
yeah.
But still, it's too late. And
is this like the only comedy where like everybody in it dies in horrendous, unfunny ways?
Well, it's if you're talking about the sort of traditional comedy tragedy type thing, it's actually a tragedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're led to sort of suspect that if this was a conventional film, he would somehow save Waz at the end, and like he'd just be in a. The happy ending would be, he'd be in a prison like Guantanamo Bay for 50 years being tortured.
Well, or that they come around and realize what they're doing is wrong, and end up living happy, productive lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the film is supposed to be based on sort of meticulous research that Chris Morris did, and I think it does capture sort of like the kind of gallows humor and just sheer inanity of like how like these people, I imagine a lot of them in real life aren't like geniuses or anything, and like what you see here is I think they have like, well, this is the interesting thing I think with the film. You don't, apart from Omar, you never get like you never get a sense of who these people are, just that they have sort of vague, ill-defined issues with like a sort of never kind of defined West.
Yeah.
Like he seems to have everything sort of fairly like together. He's got a wife, he's got kids. Well, he has a kid, sorry. He seems to have an interior life. The rest of them just seem to, apart from Barry, who we'll get to later. Yeah. But like the other two sort of members at the beginning, there's another one who comes in slightly later. They seem to just be kind of like, you can imagine they live with their parents or something.
Yeah.
Or they just have nothing in their lives other than. But I kind of think that kind of shows something as well, that like it kind of is a. Like these kind of movements, like they capture kind of like these people have nothing else in life and aren't bright enough to sort of think of a coherent problem with what they have with the West, or like.
Yeah, I don't know whether that is something that is indicative of people who are actual terrorists, or whether it was just a conceit of the film that they that they were undefined in what they wanted to do. I don't. Maybe I like, honestly, I'm not that.
Not a scholar of Islamic extremism.
Exactly. I'm not a scholar. But I do think that it did add something to it, that they had no idea what they were doing. They had no idea why they were doing it. They just seemed like they thought that they should be doing it. And it is kind of odd that Omar he is the most together, but he's the most driven out of all of them.
Yeah.
Which is very odd. And his wife is along for the ride with him. She knows what's going on.
That scene is awful, I think, in Always Wife, where he seems to be wavering and his wife's like, no, do it. Like, like that has a sort of a scary dimension to it as well.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
And the way it's sort of so normalized around his child as well, like where the child's like, have they made martyrs, Dad? And always trying to explain the Lion King through the prism of kind of like extremism as well. Like.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, with the child, and you'd kind of think that that's what Omar's life was like, but then that's sort of juxtaposed against his brother, who is very traditionally Muslim and is seemingly fully against violence.
Yeah,
like he seems upset when he actually uses a water pistol and that sort of thing. So that's very interesting because I was like, oh, okay, so this is showing that this is something that Omar, like his conversations with his child is something that Omar has gotten from his father.
Yeah.
But that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
And that's sort of not explored at all either, like where these ideas have come from, where he's...
Yeah.
Why he's like this.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really get into sort of why any of them are... The only one, I think, where you get a coherent sense of where they're coming from is Barry. So we may as well get to him. You think he sort of looms larger on the film. He's sort of like a white convert to... He's the only white one of the sort of members.
He is.
He's actually supposed to be based on a real person who was a member of the BNP. Then he decided to read the Quran to gain sort of like inside knowledge, and then he like just became a Muslim by reading the Quran.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think that what he's trying to say with that is a real thing where there's like this big crossover between sort of hardcore Islam and also like the far right.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They both have this ideology that, you know, women should be sort of, you know, traditional family values. Women are there just to... Well, you can see definitely, I think, like with his brother, like the joke is that he keeps his wife in the cupboard, which you actually see a little later on. Like, you can definitely see, I think, like a parallel between that and Barry as well. He seems to be that kind of, you know, like he wants everything to be sort of traditional and like that. I imagine he got brought into it by that kind of like need for, you know, law and order. Like, yeah, law and order is kind of a big thing between both as well. I think it's trying to draw parallels between that kind of thing.
Yeah, Barry is a bit of an enigma in the film, though. Like, obviously, yeah, him being a convert to that all makes sense, but
he clearly hates Muslims, though.
Yeah,
like, with the fact he wants to blow up the mosque.
Yeah, he wants to blow up the mosque. Like, he's sort of twisted it to his own ideals, and what he's like basically what he's proposing is a false flag attack, basically, on a mosque, which is just so stupid. But it you know, it kind of makes it make sense until it doesn't anymore, which is the case with pretty much everything with Barry.
Yeah,
like initially something he'll say will kind of makes sense at some points, and other points he just completely loses the plot.
Well, I think that there's a kind of twisted logic in the idea that by bombing the mosque, it will like turn moderates into extremists.
Yeah.
But then, as you say, hilariously underwritten when he also makes a tape telling them what he's done.
Exactly.
Oh,
Barry.
Yeah, I think all the sort of main trio in the film, which is Omar, Waz, and Barry, they're great characters. Like,
yeah.
Waz is kind of the sort of like naif character who just seems too sort of pathetically dim. Well, it's implied he has mental problems as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's developmentally challenged.
Yeah.
He's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
No. Yeah, he like the other people are dumb, but he seems to be someone who would have problems like opening a can or something.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think that. Well, yeah, Omar's not dumb, I don't think. In any way. He's just a bit of an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the rest of them are.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is kind of odd and almost sort of tragic with Omar and that in the film. I sort of not related, but I would say related. I related to sort of Omar in regards to the film. Like he sort of, you know, he was someone who wanted to get something done.
Yeah.
He had a plan, and he wanted to get that's what he wanted. And everything else in the world was sort of getting in his way. Yeah. Seemingly.
Well, it's standard comedy setup, isn't it? Yeah. He's not a smart man himself, but he's smart in everyone around him. And then their bumbling sort of buffoonery sort of brings him down to their level to an extent. And like I think he could do like this by himself. Obviously he wouldn't take down as many people.
They didn't take down really any.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's part of the sort of horror of the thing. Like, they don't take out anyone other than... Well, they kill one kebab shop owner, and that's it.
Well, they don't kill him.
Oh,
The
yeah,
police
the police shoot him, yeah. Well, I think one of the jokes that you probably missed that's quite funny is, so that the film is based in Sheffield, and the constant, like, you've ever been to Sheffield?
No, I've never been to Sheffield, but I was kind of trying to work out where it was based.
And it has constant shots of Meadowhall, which is a large shopping centre, and that's where Omar works as security guard.
Yeah.
So he works in a large populated shopping centre across the street from where he is.
Yep.
An easy attack point, which he would have access to, and it never crosses his mind to blow it up. It's one of them things you'd have to have some regional knowledge to do.
Yeah.
But I think that's like a perfect kind of like metaphor for these characters. They're literally across the road from somewhere they could easily just kill like tens of thousands of people, probably.
Maybe not that many.
One at each exit. Blow. All right, maybe like.
But they
hundred.
could do a decent job of maiming and killing people there.
Say that they kill 500 or something.
Yeah, well, and seeing as Omar's work colleague is completely clueless and
dumb as a post.
Yeah, that surprised me. Yeah, I did miss that in the film.
Well, how dumb? Oh, like the shopping.
Yeah.
As I say, you need to know sort of a bit about it, I think, to get it. And what should we talk about some of the jokes? This has got some class A jokes. Like I think it's more consistently funny than Life of Brian.
Oh yeah, absolutely. As well, there were several times where I was full on laugh out loud, just almost guffawing at jokes. The surveillance. Which when Barry tells Wedge and what's his name?
The rapping one, the one who comes in slightly late.
Yeah, tells them to
shake their heads right repeatedly so they don't get caught on film.
Yeah, so it's always blurry.
That's a great one.
That's such a good joke.
The one and all late on's pretty funny. So like, they have various disguises. Again, just a hilarious show of how ridiculous the whole thing is. And Omar's dressed is the what's he called? The orange monster thing.
It's like a honey bear.
He's the honey monster from like one of the cereals. And like they end up shooting a Wookiee because they think it's a bear.
You gotta shoot the bear. No, I shot the bear. No, that was a Wookiee.
That's pretty funny. Yeah. I love the bit and all early on where the other one who dies relatively early with the crows, where he buys the sort of stuff, and they're like, "What do you disguise yourself as?" IRA. What else is as a woman? Yeah, and he puts his
puts his hands over his face to cover his beard. And I ask him why he did that. Because I've got a beard. His performance is so good.
He's great in it. Yeah. I don't know who he is. He definitely like is the underappreciated one from the.
Yeah, even though I saw it coming, I was shocked when he died.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That was like whoa, okay. It is kind of a bit of a turning point in the film.
Yeah, that's the point where it becomes really serious. Yeah, when one of them actually dies.
But then there's still jokes. There's like his head falls out of a tree.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was his head. That's a knee. Right, yeah, that's great. And there's I don't think there's any scenes that sort of there's no jokes that really fall flat. Not all of it's as funny as like the rest of it, but
no, there's definitely stuff in there that's not supposed to be jokes. It's not wall to wall jokes. Like
and I think it could work even like as a serious kind of like it works as a film anyway. Like I think the only real detriment to the film is it's quite cheap looking.
Yeah.
Like, it relies a lot on sort of, like, the handheld camera and stuff, which, like, is fine, but every single scene is done sort of in this... There's no visual panache to it, really, like...
Yeah, I was kind of getting annoyed by, like, the establishing shot zoom-in thing that they did. I thought it was interesting the first time, but when it kept happening, I was like, yeah, no, this is... Stop doing this.
Yeah, and like, because I actually saw this at the cinema when it came out. Maybe a bad Amazon print. Like, we watched this on Amazon Prime. But like, it may be a bad print, but I don't remember it being like particularly I think it just looks fine. Like, I don't think there's anything in it where you go like, oh, that's a good shot.
Yeah, no.
Oh, the other scene I was going to say that's really funny is like the early one where where Barry's at like a convention for Islamic understanding or something.
Yeah.
Some of these like really tedious things where they get a bunch of people on who don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, to like a town hall, and he's like, he's like, you'd be sending us to training camps. He's like, oh no, we wouldn't. We wouldn't send you to training camps. It's like, I reject your use of the word training camp. You just used it. Yeah, but if I didn't, you'd have to make it up if it wasn't real. I think that just perfectly captures sort of like people trying to make bad faith argument, bad faith boom boom. But yeah, like these terrible arguments that are based on sort of straw man logic and where like people tie themselves up in. No, I think this is a really great film and all that do it. Like, there's some bad comedies and like not necessarily with films, but in like TV shows or like talk shows where it's like they don't commit fully enough to sort of the central premise. So like the characters who would be like, I think a conventional film like this wouldn't go as all in that like they actually believe in sort of a jihad.
Yeah.
A conventional film like this, all of them would be like under the sway of some like cardboard cutout villain. And the plot would be them coming to their senses and like taking him down.
Yeah. That's what I was talking about earlier when you. Yeah, I don't think. It is, and it is weird. That's what I was getting at to begin with as well. That's one of the weird things about it is that these are ostensibly bad people.
Yeah, and
really bad people, like
people who, if they could, would kill like hundreds of people.
Yeah, and you kind of just grow to like them as people.
Well, they are funny and to an extent like charming and
and except for wanting to blow people up, they're not really bad people.
There's some stuff they say that I think is quite interesting that gets sort of the pathology of what's behind it. Like, I think it's interesting that they all seem to at some point, apart from Omar, who I think he's like that because he has the loving relationship and the kid.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of implied that they all have some weird sexual pathology. Like, it's mentioned the bit where he's like, we're going to bomb Boots because it sells you condoms that make you want to have, I can't remember the words.
Yeah.
It's like, they make you want to fuck white slags.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like they all seem to have this sort of weird kind of. I think what the film is trying to do, kind of subtly, is to sort of suggest that they like sort of the trappings of Western civilization. Like they all sort of wear, like nice clothes. They all like there's the hilarious bit where they all. Another bit that I kind of think subtly suggests that they're all singing stereophonics apart from Barry, who seems completely miserable. But like I think that they like that aspect of it, but they have sort of a psychological fear of kind of like the sort of darker side of kind of like a liberalism, like sex, kind of things like that. Kind of like, and I think they're all kind of like that's the reason why the drug addict that lives next door as well.
Yeah,
the woman and all, they seem to have like a bit of a fear of her and stuff. Like, I think there's supposed to be like some kind of weird thing there with sex that it's not really explored thoroughly, but kind of mentioned offhand.
Yeah, I think it's not an uncommon argument in regards to why people living in the West commit terrorist acts against the West.
Yeah.
The idea of that they are overwhelmed by the more sexualized nature of Western society.
Yeah.
And so they lash out against it. It is a theory that exists, but I don't really give it that much credit.
No, I think it's one of them things that like sort of people try and like cast all blame away from the West itself. Like, oh no, it's not that we bomb these people. It's the fact that like they can't handle our sexual mores. Like, there's a section in the Christopher Hitchens book. Oh, what's it called? God's Not Great, or is that Dawkins? God's
Hitchens.
Not Great is Hitchens. Yeah. And he makes this sort of pithy point where it's like the reason why they want the 50 virgins is because they're virgins themselves. Which I think is the kind of thing that like somebody would like on face value you might go yeah that's quite clever, but like I don't think it really kind of gets to sort of like the bare meat of it. Like
no,
mind you, I suppose though there is sort of like parallels with just to go completely, you know, like you have like other movements that again I think there is this weird parallel between kind of like sort of extremism and sort of the far reaches of the right. Like you have the incel movement. I'm assuming you know what that is. Yeah. Like, I think there is this sort of weird kind of, like, people who've been, like, because they are virgins or they don't like sort of the sexual... Well, it's kind of one of them sort of archetypal things about kind of, like, when a society falls, it's due to sort of rampant sexuality, like... And I think that's kind of... What?
Okay,
Go on. Kind of, like... No, but I think there are, like, not... I obviously disagree with it.
All right.
But, like, you have things like, you know, the fall of Rome, for example, is known as a particularly decadent place. And I think you can use decadent as kind of a stand-in for kind of, like, extreme kind of sexuality and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you get this thing with like, incels and stuff. When it gets to a certain point, they are kind of rejecting, like obviously, volcels, the voluntary ones, the creepy ones. That's like a thing against sort of like, you know, casual sex and stuff. Well, that is kind of like a, you know, family values. What is that other than a sort of like displacement of kind of like the sort of casualization of relationships? Like, to go completely off topic from Four Lions, but yeah, I feel like that's a shotgun approach to it. But like, I feel like that's definitely So it's part of the film, a very small part. But
you kind of lost me somewhere in there.
Okay. If anyone listening wants to write an email summarizing that kind of like word soup,
I'm completely lost. I think you lost me somewhere around the Roman Empire.
All right, okay. Yeah. So I'll.
But we'll leave it.
We'll leave it now. I'll try and get something more coherent in my manifesto. But yeah, anything else to say about Four Lions?
I can't even remember what we were talking about before that rant.
Basically, we were talking about how like part of it's the wanting to return to like against sexual mores and the fact they want to blow up a boots because to sell condoms that make you want to sleep with white slugs.
Oh yeah, that's right. That happened.
Yeah. That was part of it.
Yeah. It is interesting that that's what he ends up bombing in the end.
Yeah.
As just a weird aside.
Well, that's another thing and all that's quite ironic. Like they rail against Barry for him saying that he's gonna blow up the mosque, only killing other Muslims.
Yeah. But
like, what does Waz end up doing in the end? He blows up the kebab shop with the other person, and they explicitly state that there is no. I know he doesn't kill the person.
Yeah.
He's explicitly trapped himself in a situation where, through the dialogue, they explain that there is no one other than other Muslims. Like.
Yeah. No, it's Waz is the sort of most tragic character in the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I feel like there's an extent to which, Barry is a monster.
Yeah,
like you don't care about him at all. He's like just the worst kind of aspects of like.
Yeah, I think it's the only one of the characters that died where I actually laughed.
Oh yeah, because it's done in the most funny way.
Yeah,
Like, you didn't laugh when the guy fell over the thing and killed the sheep.
No, I didn't.
I find that one relatively funny, just in a kind of Chaplin-esque slapstick kind of like.
It definitely like it felt like I should be laughing, but I just couldn't. I don't know. I just found it sort of so shocking, and as I said, I think that's the turning point in the film where it sort of. Yeah. Goes down that more serious route. Yeah, I think something in me just went, okay, no, something's happening in the film now.
Yeah.
You essentially have taken out I would say, up until that point, the funniest character in it.
Yeah, the most like, he's kind of like the comedy relief, I think. I think that's why he dies first as well, to sort of let you know that like we've stepped away from.
We're done with the comedy portion now.
Yeah. Now we've gone from the soft comedy, you know, the ones where it's just like they may blow something up.
Yeah.
Now, I think that's the point now where you know, like, there is no like I think it's explicit that like they would have found out about Omar at some point after that. Like there's no other way this could end now other than that, and you are just watching the whole thing fall into place. Like Benedict Cumberbatch is in this film.
Yeah,
as well.
Surprise Benedict.
I think this is like a really early role, 2010.
Yeah,
so obviously
he's still Ginger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is. I know he's only in one scene, but like you get a real sense of him as a real like douchey kind of like hostage negotiator.
Yeah.
And like the hat he wears and all is just great. Like.
It was like just it was funny, just the him sort of bumbling his way through it. Well, the police in general in this just sort of kind of bumble their way through things. Like
Yeah.
There's
a definite sense that like everything in the film is ridiculous and sort of like I think the police are a Kafkaesque bureaucracy that like they can't grapple with kind of what's in front of them. Like they don't know it's Omar. They think it's his brother.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to imply that because his brother's more traditional, he's like the target they would think to.
Yeah, obviously, absolutely.
Well, a real life thing to just go back to an earlier thing, to go back to the sex stuff. But like with like 9/11, for example, they visited like a strip club the night before, famously.
Yeah.
Like I mean that it's like through that and all, like they, people expect it to be the more traditional ones, but it is kind of the ones that are more like tempted by the West in a way, like like I think it's trying to say something about that.
Yeah, we're going back to the same thing.
Right,
are you gonna have another 2 or 3 minute rant?
Okay, go back to what
about
you were saying.
incels and volcels and the fall of the Roman Empire.
Right, you can forget that bit, but can you not see what I mean though? About a parallel between sort of like the far right and sort of radical Islam kind of thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's not a difficult like sort of
thing to
it's not a long bow to draw.
Yeah.
They go after Omar's brother.
Yeah.
But
I find him reprehensible from his treatment of women as well. Though.
Yeah, no, there's this thing, like, would you go after the guy who is, having meetings all the time, with seemingly traditional Muslim people, who locks the women in a small room?
Yeah.
Or would you go after the guy who's seemingly westernized, has a wife and child? He's
they genuinely warm to them as well. Like,
yeah.
There's a great scene early on where it's just like I can't really remember what they're discussing, but it's just him and his family, and like, it's right before the scene I think where his brother comes in, and like they're just laughing and smiling. He grabs his brother. It's like really genuinely warm and affectionate.
Yeah.
You feel a real like you get a sense of who these people are, kind of thing, just from that line. But yeah, his brother is kind of like, even though he takes an ostensibly good idea, like don't do this, he is still like a dick as well, like who's like has holds bad views and stuff.
Oh yeah, no, his brother isn't like the best person in the world, but
and really hectoring as well, like the bit in the park where he tries to tell him like not to do it and stuff. He comes off quite condescending, I think. Like.
Yeah, I know, but again, whether that comes from a place of him, wanting to sort of feel superior, or whether it actually comes from a place of concern for his brother.
Yeah,
it's that's not really explored. I suppose because Omar is the point of view character, we're sort of led to believe that it's his brother being condescending to him, and that.
Yeah. I suppose it is quite a despairing portrait, really, because like if like terrorists are this fucking stupid, and like how the hell are you supposed to catch them, like. Because no one would assume it'd be people this dumb, like.
Yeah, no. Well, it's surprising that they've not sort of blown themselves up before.
Well,
this
one
point.
of them does.
Well, yeah, one of them does purely accidentally, but yeah. Well, there's the scene where they're lighting the explosive on fire and that sort of thing, and then like putting it in containers and throwing it on the floor next to large amounts of the other explosive, and it's like it is like, and that is that's another one of the like weird aspects of it, that they are just so stupid, but essentially they do, carry out what they intended to do. They do
kind of, but they are like they don't achieve any, like they don't kill anyone but themselves. And
but
like,
does it really matter?
Well, they are supposed to be waging a war over a sinful Western Empire, like. Yeah.
Do you think that
they do cause property damage? I suppose like that boots is gonna have to be like. Well, I suppose there could be people in the boot.
Yeah. But...
Well, actually, can because it's clearly been emptied by the police. Like it's near enough to the.
Yeah. But like the even the like sort of idea of that there are these, like 4 people at the London Marathon.
Yeah.
And essentially what happens is you have 4 bombs going off at 4 random locations throughout London.
Yeah.
Like, we watch the film and we go, oh, that's they're idiots. They've not done... But if you're looking from a perspective, if you switch on the news and you hear 4 bombs have gone off, London Marathon was on today, 4 bombs have gone off, half a dozen people are dead.
Yeah.
That's kind of terrifying.
Well, they would definitely cause a state of emergency and panic within sort of the UK and stuff like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, there were harrowing bombings last year in Britain. 2 of them. The Ariana Grande concert in. So we're recording this in 2018, obviously.
Yeah.
And last year there were 2.
What's that last year?
Yeah, because it was during the election.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, and like that obviously caused a state of emergency and a panic, and like that obviously would have killed more people than what these people have done. Yeah, in the film. But you're right, they would even. I think that's another thing with the film. Like, these people are so dumb that they are like even inadvertently, just for what they're doing, they still manage. They still will. You don't see it in the film, but they're still going to cause this huge havoc afterwards. Like.
Absolutely, yeah. And
it's sort of showing the police's incompetence. Like, they could take Omar out at least. Like, they have a clear ability to do so. Apart from the fact that, like, they think he's the Wookiee. Like, if they were more competent, they would have been able to shoot him and take him down before he could take out the boots. Like,
yeah, I think so. It that is one of the sort of weird things as well about it, is that with Waj, the scene, like, when the police come in, they essentially come in and immediately start shooting.
Yeah.
But you don't sort of see that with any of the other characters.
Well, none of the other ones are in an enclosed space, though.
Yeah, I suppose.
Like, they never actually get a chance to take anyone else down other than Omar, who they obviously don't take because of, like, they don't know which suit he's in. Yeah. Like, they don't know him and Barry dies from being given the Heimlich. Yeah. That is just great physical comedy.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
And I think in all, if you think about it, he's the only one who actually kills a Westerner. So, like, that's something as well. Like, the only one who managed to do it is sort of the most reprehensible one of them. Like,
and he's only done it by accident, really.
Yeah, well, he doesn't even achieve that, because his aim isn't even really to kill a Westerner. It's to kill a mosque. Like, him and all his they're all anti-Semitic, but there's some special place for him and his what's it? Oh, it's the scat plugs. They're made by Jews to stop world traffic. That's a great line as well.
Has your dad ever bought a Jaffa orange? Then he's a fucking Jew.
Then he's a friend of Israel. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's just The jokes in this, I think, are so specific as well. That's kind of... Well, obviously it's not that specific. You didn't call them like a Mossad agent or something, but they're like specific enough a real person would say them, but they're not like as blunt to not be funny anymore. Yeah. Like, I think even with that and all, like they're like, that's obviously reprehensible anti-Semitism, but like they can't even do that properly. Like, it kind of makes you like, as you said, they're kind of likable in spite of themselves, even they hold such reprehensible views. Like, they hold them in such a haphazard way and like.
They are patently ridiculous people. But anyway. So, what did you think about the message of faith?
Ostensibly being a religious podcast, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, it paints pretty... It doesn't have, like, a critique from, like, an institutional level that Life of Brian does. But I think it really does get to the way that, like, really dumb people can misinterpret religious texts and stuff. Like, I think even though these are, as you say, patently ridiculous people, like, it gets to that idea that, like, it's similar in every religion, like, that people just cannot answer questions about, like Christians can't answer questions about, like, the Bible, for example. I think there is, like, it's definitely a good critique of, like, morons who, like, they think they're following the word of, like, of the religion, but they just have no idea.
Yeah, well, and that's sort of brought to bear with, again with Omar and his relationship with his brother. He's always railing against his brother being able to, quote verses from the Quran and that sort of thing, and it shows that Omar as a character, the one who is the most extreme, doesn't actually know the religion.
Yeah, I don't think a single one of these people have read I reckon other than Barry, none of them have read it.
Yeah, and Barry's probably read it and not understood a word of it.
No, he'll have understood the most extreme parts of it. Like, the things that would have, appealed to his base kind of instincts. And that's it. Like,
I can use this to control my woman.
Or you can just imagine, can't you, like a spin-off film with him where it's just like he's got some like. I imagine it'd be it wouldn't be what you expect. So it's like a meek wife. I reckon he'd be like bullied by like a strong woman.
Oh yeah.
And then like he uses like like when he's around them, he's like, I slap my bitch when she's like talking out of turn.
I slapped that fucking slag.
Yeah. And I do what I want. And he gets home. It's like, where have you been all day? I think in all, like, it's actually quite telling that like the only one who seems to have a job is Omar. Like,
yeah.
Like, I think that's kind of like another thing and all. Like, a lot of it's driven by sort of economic kind of like these people just have nothing else in their lives. Like.
Yeah. Well, I honestly don't think Waj could work.
No.
And the same with Fazil.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he could work either. Like,
no, he's too dim.
Like they are too dim to like hold a job.
Yeah.
And well, Barry seems to be like a professional provocateur. Like,
you see, I reckon his backstory is just such a great character. I imagine he was like a painter decorator or something, some like trade where like he'd have earned loads of money, enough to retire at his age, which is, I'm guessing, like late 50s, early 60s or something.
Yeah,
I think the actor's probably younger, but he looks older with that sort of grey beard.
Yeah,
but
I would have pitched him in his like early 50s, but anyway.
All right, but I reckon he'd earn enough to do that and like slowly just become more and more extreme and like like rail against like immigrants and stuff like that until like now, where like for some reason he's managed to join like Islam. But like, yeah, what do you think it has to say about faith?
To be perfectly honest, I'd probably just parrot what you've said.
Yeah, there's nothing about like Islam itself in this. Like.
No, absolutely not. The only thing that sort of really comes up is, as I said, the difference between Omar and his brother, and who's actually following the faith and the one who isn't, and
I think actually there's maybe something in when they go to Afghanistan, where they're supposed to have gone right at the beginning. Pakistan. So they've gone to the training camp.
Yeah, and
this is sort of the first indication that Omar's a bit of a fool. That like obviously, as you say, he blows up the actual sort of training camp people.
Yeah.
But like he is clearly out of his depth, and like amongst these people, like it's obvious that he just does not have the sort of self-discipline to sort of live the kind of lifestyle they live, kind of like like actually murderous and sort of living off the land and stuff, and like.
See, I'd say one of the sort of weaker elements of it is, you don't really know Omar's motivation.
Yeah.
It's that is, and I think that was intentional.
Yeah.
But it is kind of, because you go, why is he why is he going to this training camp? Like,
yeah,
like seemingly it's because he's fed up with his life.
Well, the things that he says in the film in like the training video is the standard kind of like and that's another hilarious detail that they constantly parrot, like it's about the West, TK Maxx, Boots, and they just list a bunch of like brands that they're vaguely aware of. Yeah. Like stuff like that, like but his I think that's kind of an inbuilt criticism of this kind of ideology, though. Like he does constantly rail against the West and brands, but he's not living a spiritually bankrupt life. Like he does have everything like relatively decent. Like
he's not got a bad life at all in the film. I don't.
Yeah.
Which it just makes it really odd that he would want to do this. And that's where I think, some form of motivation would have been good.
Yeah.
Like,
I'd love to see a heavy-handed film where, not that obviously is inherently heavy-handed, but wouldn't this be hilarious if it opened with like a 10-year-old him and like his mother is like mowed down by like the police or something. And it comes to him waking up at middle of the night like, I had the dream again, the Western pig dogs. I think that's like an inbuilt flaw in like what the film's trying to do. Like these people have to be morons, but they also have to have a relatively competent leader, and he also has to be relatively comfortable as well. So like he is a kind of contradictory character because like the other people, like Barry's clearly led just because he's like hateful and just wants to kill, and you can imagine that this is like the only outlet he has for his sort of murderous rage.
Yeah.
Wadge and the other guy who's Fassel, did you say?
Yeah, I think that's his name.
They're clearly just following Omar because he's like a dominant figure and like much smarter than them. But yeah, Omar, I think, because he needs to have kind of like be more stable, there is kind of a problem there with like, how do you write this character differently? Like, it's not really funny anymore if he has a legitimate reason for wanting to do it.
It doesn't really take away from the film until the end.
Yeah.
Until it actually gets serious, because once it gets serious, you're then like, why is he doing this? Like,
you see, I get a feeling that it, like, in the end he's doing it to sort of like, even though I don't think he really believes it kind of in the end, but I feel like he just wants to save them from Barry, who's going to make him do something really reprehensible.
Yeah. But
I think when he tells Waz to sort of replace his brain and his heart, that's kind of him trying to sort of make himself believe it a bit as well, like. Yeah. But you're right. It is kind of a problem with the film that they don't elucidate it. Like it's never explicit what he wants.
Yeah, exactly. Any final thoughts?
Just I think this is just a great film. Like I think it's kind of like quite underrated now. Had you even heard about it before? Like,
no, I'd heard of it before. I'd just never bothered to see it.
Are you glad you did?
Yeah, no, I really like it. I think it's one of the funniest films I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think it's one that like kind of like, well, obviously you won't have had this, but when I watched it in the cinema when it came out. I remember being really weird and all because I saw it in Bradford.
Yeah.
And they actually had to move the cinema at the last minute, so you bought a ticket. And then someone like just told you it was in a different cinema when you went.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it had like a relative amount of controversy around it, and like I think watching it, like I actually felt like I felt this kind of like you get this thrill of like subversive art kind of thing, and like I was carried on by the jokes. Then when I watched it a second time, which like when it came out on DVD, it did become more tragic, and sort of this time it is kind of like it is just full on kind of tragic comedy as well. Like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's not. I think, definitely you get the opportunity. Well, it's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, it's easily available.
It is easily available. Just get Prime and watch it.
It's everything that comedy should do, because it doesn't punch down at all. It makes serious points, and it's just... I mean, we've barely touched on how... It's just stuffed with great... Even though there are long stretches of seriousness, there's just so many hilarious jokes.
Yeah, there's so much to laugh at. And as I said, even once it takes a serious turn, there's still jokes in there. There's still a lot of good comedy moments in there, mixed in perfectly with the seriousness. And then basically pretty much like 2 minutes before the end of the film, it just like cuts it all off.
Yeah.
And then you're just sort of left kind of going, oh, that's really depressing.
And I'm staking me bets here. I reckon we will struggle to see a better film within this. Certainly, we won't find a better comedy. I don't think. I think this is better than Life of Brian. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Like I think it has a better story. It has more emotional relevance. It's funnier as well. It's not dated as well. Like I was kind of worried it was going to go in like a gay panic direction as well, with like the scene where like she mistakes them for being like homosexuals. But I think that within the context of the film and all, like they're kind of like, well, that's another. I mean, we're actually getting into the weeds of like these are homophobic anti-Semites who want to kill loads of people, and yet you still watch the film and like
they're they are really, they're objectively awful people.
Yeah. But I think in all
But
like that to an extent.
Yeah, they're written and acted so well that you just completely forget about that. You forget about all the awful aspects of these people, and you're like, I want to be along for the ride with you guys.
Yeah, and just the flawless acting as well. Like Riz Ahmed's great.
Yep.
The guy who plays Barry is great. Where was his best supporting actor Oscar? And the guy who plays Wadge, it's a difficult role, I think, playing like dumb.
Yeah.
Because if you do it badly, you end up like Ashton Kutcher or something, where it's just like mugging kind of thing. Like, but like he plays it with just such tragic kind of like, this is just a moron who just deserves better, really. Like. Yeah,
well, and you know, it is his story is the most tragic of them all.
Yeah,
I think they try to sort of play it up as Omar having the most tragic story, but you know, I kind of in the end I didn't have the feeling for Omar when his bomb went off that I did when Wadge's bomb went off.
Even after he takes the hostages and like even when they shoot the other person, I think there's still like a party that's like, just hand yourself in.
Yeah, just you'll be all right, dude. You'll be okay.
That would be like, even more tragic.
I was like, okay, and it's horrible, but I'm like, they've shot the other guy. He could get away with this. Like they think that the other guy is the terrorist, not this guy. He might get away with it. It's like, no, that's an awful thought to have.
That's another great line in the sort of like, so it ends with kind of like the aftermath and just portraying the police as clueless and not know, and they go like and we're made to believe that the right person died but the wrong bomb went off. This is complete nonsense. It makes no sense. Like,
obviously, just trying to cover their ass for killing a innocent civilian.
Yeah.
Just because I assume that he looked a little more.
Because he's wearing a cowboy hat.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm sure this is unintentional symbolism, but they killed the one who looks more Muslim than him, and he is literally wearing a cowboy hat. Like,
I feel like that was going to be the case the whole time, and then there's a bit where Wash pushes the bomb towards him closer.
Oh,
because he's like, you'll get to heaven first. And that again at the end he was being selfless and lovely.
Yeah. But I think as I was saying, like
justice for Waj.
Justice for Waj. Hashtag Waj did nothing wrong. Let's start that group. Waj did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
But I think that we won't see a better comedy than this.
We'll see.
Yeah, we've got some on the docket, and I think it'll be very high up there in films that we see.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the next? Well, yeah, great film. Basically, is my last. Any line of thoughts or?
No, I think everyone should just see it.
It's thought provoking. It'll give you an understanding of some people you may not understand, and it's empathetic. It's just brilliant. So from Four Lions, we move to a film that, even though neither of us have seen it, I'm going to guess from the sort of poster general description, is of a similar quality.
But yeah, absolutely. It looks like it's going to be a laugh a minute. I don't think in the way that the film intended.
No. Probably not as tragically poignant.
No, definitely not.
Definitely not.
We're going to watch what one could describe as like C-grade God's Not Dead. It will be a matter of faith.
A matter of faith.
Yes. This
film. Cinematic arc. Cinematic piece of detritus.
Product. A Christian student wrestles with her beliefs while taking a biology class, and her father steps in to try and stop her from abandoning her faith.
Anyone who's thinking, what country could this film have been made in? It's America.
Oh, I thought it was Turkmenistan.
This film's all the way back from 2014. I know nothing about it other than when you click on Netflix, you get your description, you get your title, Terrible poster, which is like a hand of a human being and a monkey touching. But you
that's
also
a gorilla.
A gorilla,
which is not a monkey.
All right, Mr. Pedant. I think you're just the kind of science man who would be the villain of this film.
It's all I hope for in life, really.
To be the cardboard cutout villain of a
bad Christian
film.
Absolutely.
All right, who are you, J.P. Strawman?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my god, this film just writes itself.
Yeah. But
I'll just end up being played by Kevin Sorbo, though.
Yeah, they should really get like someone who's an actual believer in. I suppose saying that, like, who's going to agree to be in one of these films who isn't on message? But anyway, we can discuss all that next week.
Yes.
Mercilessly, it's only like 85 minutes long. I'm assuming with credits.
Yeah, it doesn't look that long, and I can't imagine it'll have that much. And for our listeners, we'll probably only get about 20 minutes.
Yeah. Like with to bring it back to Four Lions, that was so dense, and like that there was not in the visuals. We're actually discussing this before. But visuals are so sort of rudimentary, but like there's so much going on in the script, the characterization, sort of the character motives. I'm imagining Matter of Faith will just be laughing at sort of how bad it is.
Yeah.
But I've been surprised before.
We may be wrong. Look at that man with his egg and his chicken.
Yes, that's the other thing. So you click on Netflix, you get all this stuff. There's 3 images. One of them is like a middle-aged man holding a cat, like a blow-up chicken and an egg.
Mm-hmm.
So if the film can at least have that image in it at least once, then I think it'll be worth watching.
I think so as well.
Yes, join us for Matter. Another thing though, so Four Lions. This is my last prediction. That to me was like the pinnacle of sort of pacing. Like it just feels to go by so quickly. Like I was genuinely surprised because I'd seen it before. I was like, oh, we're already at the bit where they're at the marathon. You'd agree it's quickly paced, it's well paced.
Yeah, it's well paced.
I'm imagining Matter of Faith we maybe like it's over yet, and then it'll be like half an hour in. But yeah, join us next week for Matter of Faith.